Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all well on this lovely grey day in sunny England. So just a quick introduction to myself. So my name's Patrick. I head up our commerce sales team here at dotdigital. If you've got any questions throughout this session, do just drop them into the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. We've got a lot of team in there that can answer any questions as we go on. So we'll start very swiftly. So a quick introduction to us. So we are an omnichannel marketing solution. Speed and ease of use is at the core of what we do. So our goal as a business is to make it easier for you to get the most out of your channels and out of your communications with your customers. So a quick snapshot of some of the customers that we work with. I won't go through each of these, but if you've got any questions specifically or any questions about the joint clients that we have with Fresh, obviously Fresh are a great partner of us, and just want to shout those guys out for letting us be part of Fresh Fest, and there's been some really interesting content so far today, so hopefully this session will also be useful for you. So with no further ado, we'll move swiftly on to the kind of the core today, which is kind of what is omnichannel. So omnichannel is a term that's been floating around for quite a while in the space, and I think has ultimately settled into a definition that most people are comfortable with. But we'll just go into that definition and talk through that in some degree at the moment. So what is omnichannel? So big data driven, hyper personalized omnichannel contextual customer experiences delivered by cloud-based marketing solutions. Or indeed, you may well have just heard blah, 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 driven, blah, 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 customer, and so on. So let's just break down the kind of the overall phrase here and just focusing on one key element, I guess, which is kind of be the core of what we want to talk about today, and that's omnichannel. And so let's talk about what omnichannel actually means. So omni stems from the Latin word omnis, which means all, for example, omnipotent. And that one's a bit of a tongue teaser that I've been practicing, which means all powerful, and it's omni meaning all. So omni-channel means all channels, but being realistic, all channels isn't something that's practical and viable for 99% of the businesses out there, because of the size of budget, team, resource, and everything else that would need to be able to help manage that. So for this kind of omni-channel and going beyond email, let's focus in on multi-channel. So the channels that firstly your customers are most likely to engage with, but also the channels that you're going to be able to manage at scale with the team and resources that you have. So a bit of buzzword busting to start with. So omni-channel customer experiences. So we're talking about right message and the right channel. Big data driven, hyper personalized. So we're talking about the right person, understanding who we're sending to. So the right message and the right channel to the right person. And then the marketing automation is ultimately the right time. So trying to keep that experience more conversational, so delivering that content to the right person at the right time. So what is omnichannel? As we've been talking about, companies with an omni-channel strategy retain 89% of their customers. That's comparable to 33% for companies with a weak or lack of omni-channel strategy. What's more, according to Google, the lifetime value of an omni-channel shop is actually 30% higher than just a regular single channel customer. So those obviously are really powerful stats that support the value of having a effective and powerful omni-channel experience. And I just wanted to kind of visualize the customer life cycle as a whole and all of the potential touch points throughout that and the complexity that are there for you as a marketer and also for you, your customers to be able to get through. So we're going to break it down into 3 steps to master your omni-channel journeys. The first being organizing your data. The second, defining your channels. As we just mentioned there, we can't be truly omni-channel with all channels to everyone, but just because of the volume of channels that are there and also some of the speed at which those channels appear and disappear. And lastly, tailoring your content, and obviously, a very close connection to that personalization experience here with our partner Fresh. And again, thanks for those guys to let us be part of this day. So let's start with organizing your data. So data is the key to most of the most strategies, and omnichannel is no different. And the real power in being able to manage all of the different puzzle pieces that make up your customer, being able to define them and unify them across all of the different touch points that you work with, whether that's online, offline, and all of the kind of the touch points in and around, to give you that full picture and that complete picture of the customers that you're communicating with. So just want to jump in and talk about RFM for a moment whilst we're talking about connecting that data together. So RFM, for those that don't know, is recency, frequency, and monetary, and that's looking at some kind of reasonably static behaviors of your customers, but helping you to start to build a picture of where they sit in your customer group. So, you know, whether they're a champion, whether they're loyal. But one of the real values and is then being able to tie in the engagement around this. So not only where they are from that kind of recency, frequency, monetary, but then also what's their engagement like, and that enables you to build that fuller picture of your customers and recipients really quickly and easily, allowing you to then tailor that experience for them, and ultimately to drive longer customer lifecycle value, quicker acquisition, and so on. So a quick example of kind of how all of that can tie together inside of your organization, from all of the data touch points, being able to unify that data across all of those different touch points, and then being able to orchestrate the right channels with the right messaging to ultimately deliver that to your end customer. So the second piece we want to do is we want to talk about defining your channels. And this comes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, with not being omni-channel, but being multi-channel, and understanding where your customers are and the channels that they're going to want to be able to engage with you on. So for example, 75% of Generation Z selected a mobile phone or smartphone as the device they most use. So obviously more mobile related channels are going to drive better engagement and effectiveness. What's also quite interesting is that Generation Z, one of the key things that's kind of tied to their category is that they shop online. So where they're getting the money from, I have no idea, but that's not the point. And the point, this is a very large emerging market for B2C. It's huge already, but also for B2B, it's one to think about as the world kind of continues, because these are going to be the future buyers of your products and services, you know, whether that's B2B or B2C. Anyway, back to what the customer wants. So UK consumers check their phone 91 times a day. We spend a lot of time on our mobiles throughout the day, obviously messaging, I think on average 10 different channels that you'll communicate with your friends and the brands that you engage with. And also there's a very large rise in live chat. I think, you know, for example, a single provider has 500 million live chat users at any given time, you know, so there's a large volume of your consumers that are now communicating on a channel that's far more established than previously. So just going to talk through some omni-channel examples, as a SMS, email, push notifications, and the chat app, as we were just mentioning there. So being able to keep your content relevant for the channel, obviously, especially when we're talking about the mobile device, it needs to obviously be a lot more short and snappy to get that engagement whilst people are on the go or you know, moving around. One other channel just to talk about, and this is one for the future, but as you can see from this little video, Google RCS. So this is, I believe, is coming to mobile providers towards the end of this year. So certainly watch this space. But it brings a new level of engagement into that mobile messaging space directly to mobile providers. So again, cross-platform as well, similar to SMS. So again, very powerful. Another one to touch on in more detail is WhatsApp. So here's an example from KLM. They basically, they've seen 1.5 billion users and want a piece of that. Naturally, who wouldn't? The other benefit to the mobile messaging channels like WhatsApp is you don't need to worry about people installing the app, marketing the app, user adoption, retention, because the platform is already there and it's already established. So being able to communicate with the customers and deliver the experience on the apps and messaging channels they're already engaging is obviously massively powerful. One of the obviously the benefits, as I mentioned already, WhatsApp being a highly established platform already, live in over 109 countries, 450 million plus daily active users, which interestingly is obviously getting close to 16% of the world's population. So a very powerful messaging channel that is available to you. And third thing we'll talk through is tailoring your content. So tailoring your content isn't simply just creating a segment based on a category, because although people may fall into the same category for a number of reasons, we are all individuals and we all want it to be treated in that way. So being able to understand the data you collect on them and the channels that they're comfortable with, then being able to deliver that unique content experience for that individual. From a survey where a question was asked, if you're able to manage the communications you see from brands, which of the following options would you choose? And there's an interesting stat here. So 36% said they'd reduce the frequency. And I think that's fair enough. I think as brands, we can often, potentially overload just based on the frequency. 31% said they'd only receive emails about specific products or services. 26% said they'd just unsubscribe. And 25% said to personalize the emails they receive. Now, of this list, you could argue that all four can be easily managed, but it's paying attention to each individual and the content they want to receive, I think would impact all of those answers and allow you to be more effective. So whilst we're talking about the content, it's not just a case of sending the same content through all of the different channels, but it's a case of blending that content and those channels together to be able to deliver that powerful experience across device and across channel. So an example here from Netflix. So the same message across. So conceptually, they're in the right place, but I think the execution's lacking here. Rather than being able to tailor the content based on the preferred channel, or even changing that content slightly based on the device or channel, they've just sent the same piece of content, whether it was a push notification, an email, or indeed an SMS. So they're on the right track, but definitely room for improvement there. So a good example to be able to learn from. Also, when we're talking about relevancy, obviously I know when working with Fresh already, and product recommendations is a really powerful capability, whether that's just generic product recommendations, so things like bestsellers, most viewed, and so on, or indeed using AI personalized product recommendations. So looking at how you as a consumer match up to similar consumer behaviors to be able to define the right products that would fit you as the individual. So an example of product recommendations here, based on your trainer preferences at this stage. Another really good example is when we're talking about life cycle based products. So here's an example from Feel Unique. So they understand when you're likely to be running low on this product, but they're also trying to keep it very conversational and let the consumer define which content, how regularly they want to receive this content, or whether this content's even the right time. So in this instance here, are we running low? No. Okay, remind me again in 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. They're allowing their consumers to define what their buying cycle will be, rather than standard 30 days, or this product must be out now, and then let's push hard with discounts and so on to try and drive that. Really, really good example there. So in summary, the three key takeaways from today are organizing your data, so making sure that we have a fuller picture of the individuals that we're talking to, defining your channels, so the channels that your customers want to receive communications on, and also the channels that you're able to manage, and then tailoring that content to be able to really get the most, whether that's based on the individual and also on the channel, and ultimately blending those two things together to deliver a really unique experience, and ultimately drive the uplift of conversions and retention and everything else that you're going to be looking for in your omnichannel strategies. So last you for everyone that's joined the session and has listened in. If you've got any questions that haven't been answered in the chat today, do drop me an email. Happy to help. Obviously, visit the website. We have a full load of content and access to an array of resources that you can use to better define your strategies and hopefully add some value. Okay, thank you very much.